She was a masterpiece of self-invention, and I was her willing canvas. When I met Amelia, I was a musician barely scraping by, a guy with more dreams than dollars, and she seemed like the answer to a question I was too afraid to ask. She presented herself as a successful life coach, an architect of destinies, radiating a kind of serene confidence that felt like solid ground beneath my feet. She had this incredible loft downtown, all polished concrete and minimalist furniture that always smelled faintly of sandalwood and success. She drove a sleek hybrid, wore clothes that were simple but expensive, and spoke in a language of synergy, manifestation, and boundless potential. She wasn't just living a life, she was curating an experience, and I wanted in. We fell into a rhythm that felt like a perfect harmony, and within a few months I had moved into her sanctuary. But soon the melody started to go flat. It began subtly, a grocery bill here, a dinner tab there. Her excuses were always so polished, so believable. A major client's payment was tied up in processing. She was reinvesting her earnings into a new branding initiative. A large wire transfer from her business mentor was just a day or two away. To smooth things over, she'd contribute a small amount, just enough to make me feel like we were a team, before suggesting an expensive wellness retreat or a weekend trip that would, of course, fall on my credit card. I even paid for a $400 repair on her car, telling myself that this is what supportive partners do. I was investing in us, in her, in the beautiful future she painted so vividly. We took a trip to the coast, a place she called a nexus of creative energy, paid for entirely with the last of my savings. And for a few days it was perfect. We walked on windswept beaches, planned the recording studio I would one day build there, and she was the most attentive, intoxicating person on earth. She made me believe my dreams were not just possible, but inevitable with her by my side. She knew exactly how to live a 5-star life on a 1-star budget, as long as the budget wasn't hers. A week after we got back, the entire composition of my life fell apart. A man called me. He introduced himself as Marcus, and his voice was heavy with the weary patience of someone who had seen this all before. He wasn't her mentor, he was her long-term partner, and he was the one bankrolling the entire operation. The loft wasn't hers, it was his investment property. The car wasn't hers, it was registered in his name. Her thriving coaching business was a fiction, a hobby funded by his deep pockets. She wasn't an architect of destiny, she was just a tenant in someone else's life, and I was her latest subcontractor. I felt a cold wave wash over me, a sickness that had nothing to do with my body and everything to do with my soul. Every shared dream, every supportive word had been a transaction. For days I was a ghost in my own life, watching her move through the loft, still spouting her hollow affirmations. I didn't explode, I imploded. And in that silent collapse, a new resolve was forged. I saw her for what she was, a predator who hunted for hope and fed on ambition. And I decided to set a trap using her own favorite bait. I told her a distant aunt I barely knew had passed away, leaving me a substantial inheritance. I started talking about it constantly, not with loud excitement, but with the quiet, serious gravity of someone whose life had fundamentally changed. I printed out listings for recording studios in that coastal town we had visited. I spent hours on the phone with a friend of mine, an actor, pretending he was a real estate agent. I discussed escrow and closing costs while she was in the room, my voice a mask of calm deliberation. I became a man with a plan, a man whose future was suddenly bigger and brighter than hers. I stopped reacting to her suggestions, stopped paying for our life together. I was saving for the studio, I'd say, my tone apologetic but firm. And just like that, the chase began. She saw her stable arrangement with Marcus was fraying at the edges, he was growing tired of her, and she saw me as her next big score. Her attention became desperate. She started talking about how she could leverage her connections to help me, how we would be an unstoppable force. Then came the day Marcus finally pulled the plug. He showed up at the loft while I was there, his face a thundercloud of quiet rage. He didn't yell. He just told her to be out by the end of the day. He owned everything and her lease was up. The breakdown was spectacular. She pleaded, she raged, she cried, but he was immovable. After he left, she turned to me, her eyes wild with panic but also gleaming with a new, hungry hope. This was it, our new beginning. She started talking about the inheritance, our studio, our future. I let her talk, watching the desperate fantasy spin out of her. When she was finally done, I stood up and picked up my guitar case from the corner. I looked at her, this beautiful, hollow woman standing amidst the ruins of her borrowed life, and I felt nothing. No anger, no love, just a profound, quiet emptiness. I told her there was no aunt, there was no inheritance. There was no studio, there was only a lesson. A lesson in what it feels like to have your deepest dreams used as a weapon against you. Her face crumbled, the carefully constructed mask of confidence shattering into a million pieces, revealing the terrified fraud underneath. Revenge, I learned, isn't about burning down their world. It's about rebuilding your own from the ashes and walking away without ever looking back.